Hello and welcome to this list where I'm going to be ranking what I consider to be the top 20 English football clubs in terms of size. First thing to say, this is my own personal opinion. It's not subjective. Likewise, I'm going to be ranking them in terms of heritage, in terms of size of stadium, size of fan base, and also in terms of recent results and trophies. So, number 20 on this list, I would put Derby County. It was a close call for me between Derby and Leicester, but for me, Leicester just misses out because Derby are more stable. Derby's been in the Championship for quite a while. They have a decent sized stadium. They've got the history of the 70s where they were quite successful under Clough. In the 70s, they were in Europe as well, in the European Cup twice and the UEFA Cup twice. So yeah, for me, for that reason, I would put Derby number 20 on this list. Okay, next on the list, I would put Preston North End. Preston North End have a bit of pedigree, but it's historic pedigree. Most of their success came in the 1890s. They won the First Division twice in the 1890s, as well as the FA Cup. They won the FA Cup again in the 30s. Some of the players that have been connected to them, such as Tom Finney, this is the reason why they're on this list, I think, really. So they've got a little bit of pedigree in that sense, but they've not been in the first division since in the top division since the 1950s. So for that reason, that's probably why I would put them this low in the list. Next in this list, I would put Bolton. I think Bolton have a lot of heritage. You know, you think of Nat Lofthouse and the success that they had in the 1950s. Bolton have struggled of late, so they're not going to be too high up on this list. They had quite a successful spell under Sam Allardyce in the early thousands when they had players of real caliber like JJ Okocha, Yuri Djorkaeff, Nicholas Anelka, players like this. But recently they have struggled, you know, flirted with League One and League Two. The size of their stadium is pretty decent, but it's modern and it's not particularly attractive, I don't think, the Reebok Stadium. But I think just for their heritage, I would have them on this list. So for me, Bolton would go in at this position. So next on this list, I would have Burnley. I think it's quite close between Burnley and Bolton. I think that Burnley had great success in the 1960s and quite early on. Their stadium is looking its age. You know, Turf Moor is quite old, but I think just for the heritage again, I would probably have them quite high up. I would have them on this list. They're quite a traditional club. You know, you look at behind the scenes of their chairman's lounge and all the corridors and everything like this, and it shows a lot of tradition. For me, I do think they are a reasonably sized club. Obviously, there are bigger clubs, but I would have them at this level on this list. So next on this list, I would have Blackburn Rovers. Again, I think Blackburn is very similar to both Burnley and Bolton. I would have them higher on this list just simply because they've won things more recently. The 94-95 Premier League. They've won three quote unquote first division titles. They've won 6 FA Cups, 1 League Cup, and 1 Charity Shield. In terms of their history, they pretty much dominated the early FA Cup, winning 3 of the first 10, by the looks of it, FA Cups. Some of their success came early on in the 1910s. They've sort of had a bit of a run of the mill between then and the 1990s, but just simply for their success in the Premier League, I would put them at this level on the list. And again, they're quite traditional. Ewood Park does need a bit of a renovation. It's not the biggest stadium, but yeah, just for their Premier League win, I put them at this level on the list. Okay, next on this list, I would put Sheffield Wednesday. Sheffield Wednesday had some success in the early 1900s, the early 1920s, into the 1930s. But just in terms of the amount they've won 4 First Division titles, three FA Cups, a League Cup, and a Charity Shield. So for that reason, that's why I would put them on this list. They're quite a traditional club. The stadium probably does need a bit of renovation, but it's a traditional stadium. It's got a lot of history, a lot of pedigree. You've only got to think of the Hillsborough disaster that happened in the 80s. I think that Sheffield Wednesday have obviously fallen on hard times as of late. Also, they look like they might be going bankrupt sometime soon. But just in terms of the amount they've won, that's probably the reason why I would put them this high in the list. Okay, so next on this list, I would put Ipswich Town. Ipswich Town are on this list at this level simply really because they won the UEFA Cup in the 80s. They had some really good Dutch players playing for them at the time. Also, another reason is that they are connected to two of England's biggest ever managers, Sir Bobby Robson and Sir Alf Ramsey. Outside of their UEFA Cup win, they've won the First Division once and the FA Cup once. It was nice to see them do well under George Burley in the early thousands when they finished fifth in the Premier League. And it was also nice to see them do well recently under Kieran McKenna. But I think really it's just because of their connection to the big England managers and also the UEFA Cup win in the 80s, which is why I would have them this high on the list. Okay, so next on this list, I would put Wolverhampton Wanderers. Wolves have had a lot of historic success, especially in the 1950s. They won the First Division three times in the 50s, as well as an FA Cup. They were close to winning the UEFA Cup in 72, but they were beaten by Tottenham. In terms of the size of the stadium, they've got a nice sized stadium in Molineux. Also, some of the players that have been connected to the club, like Billy Wright. Yeah, I think that they are a decent sized team. I think they are hampered by the fact that I would probably say Villa is probably bigger than them, just for the success that Villa's had. So for that reason, that's why I would put Wolves at this level on the list. So next on this list, I'd have Nottingham Forest. Nottingham Forest are a big club. They've won the European Cup twice. Outside of the European Cup, they've won the First Division in 77-78, two FA Cups, and four League Cups. Obviously, they're going to be connected with Brian Clough. Since then, they've really fallen on hard times. They've not really hit those heights again. The stadium is lovely, and they are looking at renovating the stadium and making it bigger. I worry for them in terms of their ownership, but I do think they are a big club, and that's the reason they are this high in the list. So next on this list, I would put Sunderland. Sunderland are a massive club, but the reason they're this low on this list is because they haven't really done much as of late. Their last success came in the 72-73 season when they won the FA Cup. They've won a total of 6 First Division titles and an FA Cup and a Charity Shield. Their stadium is massive. It's huge. The Stadium of Light. In terms of recent success, like I say, they've not had a lot of recent success. And it's going to take a while, I think, before they do win anything again. They're going about things the right way. They've got a young owner. They're into the Premier League now. But yeah, just for the lack of recent success and for how low they've been recently, going down into League One, I would put them this low on the list. Okay, next on this list, I would put Leeds United. Leeds United obviously had a very successful period in the 1960s, and again, they had a reasonable success in the early 90s under Howard Wilkinson. But recently, they've obviously fallen on incredibly hard times. I think they overspent in O'Leary's period. I think that they do have a massive fan base, and I think that they're helped by the fact that they are a one club city, and also there's a lot of historical sort of fan ownership from the 1960s and the 1970s. I think that in terms of trophies won, they've won three First Division titles, a FA Cup, a League Cup, two Charity Shields, and two Intercities Fairs Cup. I think that they have got a bit of pedigree in Europe. So for that reason, and given the success they had in the 60s, I would probably put them this high in the list. Okay, next on this list, I would have Everton. Everton are a big club. Most of their success happened in the 1980s. You know, they won the First Division a few times, the FA Cup, Charity Shield, as well as the Cup Winners' Cup. Um, they've won overall 9 First Division titles, 5 FA Cups, 9 Charity Shields, and 1 UEFA Cup Winners' Cup. I think the reason they're this low on the list is that there's just a few clubs that are bigger in size or have achieved more in the game, but that's nothing to decry from Everton. I think all the clubs from now on are pretty big. Um, Obviously, something that's against them is they haven't had success for a while. The last trophy they won was in 94, 95 in the FA Cup. They've not really threatened the top six for quite a while. I mean, they had a bit of a time under Moyes the first time around, and again, they seem to be on the up again. And obviously, the new stadium really does help them in terms of their size. But they're very consistent. You know, they're always in the Premier League. I mean, in the 90s, they were close to being relegated a few times, but they seem to have stabilised a bit now. But I think really, given their great success in the 80s, you know, they won Europe as well, and the amount of trophies they have, that's why I would put them this high on the list. Okay, so next on this list, I would have Newcastle United. I think one of the reasons I'd have them above Everton is just for the size of the fan base and the passion of the fan base. Newcastle is a one club city. Also, you know, St James's Park is pretty impressive. It's an impressive stadium. I'm not saying that Hill Dickinson Stadium isn't, but St James's Park, yeah, it's pretty gets pretty passionate. In terms of trophies, they obviously won the League Cup relatively recently, their first trophy in quite a while. They've got 4 league um, league trophies. They've got 6 FA Cups, 1 League Cup, 1 Charity Shield. So they've got a fair amount of trophies, but like I say, most of the trophies were in the 50s or the early 1900s. So they haven't had that recent success. They've had a few occasions where they've been there or thereabouts, especially under Kevin Keegan with the entertainers phase. They've had some big players, and it'd be interesting to see what happens with this Saudi ownership. I think that they are a big club, but there is potential for them to be absolutely massive. So that's the reason why I would have them this high on the list. Okay, so next on this list, I would have Aston Villa. Villa are an absolutely massive club. It's just there's bigger clubs, obviously, in this list. They, first of all, they've won the European Cup, which is always a major ranking in these lists. Villa Park is traditional. It has history. It has pedigree. It looks fantastic. It's a very traditional stadium. In terms of trophies won, they've won a large amount of trophies, 7 First Division league titles, 7 FA Cups, 5 League Cups, a Charity Shield, a European Cup, a European Super Cup, and an Intertoto Cup. Um, they're they've got relative recent history of winning something. In 1996, they won the League Cup. They've seemed to have stabilized now into the sort of for around fourth to sixth. They've had 2 periods of that really under Martin O'Neill and now under Unai Emery. Also, you think of John Gregory when he was there, they did quite well. They finished second one season, I think, under Brian Little as well. Just so for that reason, I would put them this high in the list because of the amount of trophies they won the tradition that they have and also winning the European Cup. Next on this list, I would have Tottenham Hotspur. Tottenham are a big club. They've obviously got recent trophy wins with the League Cup in 2008 and then the Europa League in 2025. They've got two First Division titles, 8 FA Cups, 4 League Cups, 7 Charity Shields, 1 Cup Winners' Cup, 3 UEFA Cups, and 1 Anglo-Italian League Cup. Obviously, they've got a passionate fan base, a history of stylish football, Hoddle, Ardiles, Ricky Villa, so some famous moments, Gascoigne with the 91 free kick against Arsenal. They have been very consistent recently. Well, not recently, but previously finishing, fifth, sixth, fourth, for quite a few seasons. I thought that their best chance to win the Premier League recently was when Leicester won it. No one else seemed to be doing anything, and it was Tottenham's opportunity to do well. And I think they blew it a little bit, really. They've got a massive stadium, fantastic stadium, probably the best stadium in the country. They've got a fantastic training base. They've got international, continental players. But I think in terms of the amount of European success they've had, and also in terms of the size of their stadium, I would put them this high on the list. Okay, next on this list, I would have Chelsea. I think it's very difficult to tell Chelsea and Man City apart. Chelsea have much more European success than City, but City have much more domestic success than Chelsea. Um, Chelsea, I put them this high on the list for their European success. I mean, they have won every trophy there is to win in Europe. They've won 2 Champions Leagues, 2 Europa Leagues, 1 Conference League, 2 Cup Winners' Cups, 2 Super Cups, and 2 Club World Cups, which is pretty outstanding. In terms of domestically, they've won 6 First Division titles, 8 FA Cups, 5 League Cups, 4 Charity Shields. Something against Chelsea is that prior to the early thousands, they didn't really have much success, so they don't have the tradition of success. They were a very fashionable club in the 70s, the kings of High Road, as they used to call them. You think of Peter Osgood, Terry Venables, players like this, but they weren't at a particularly high level. I think they were very similar to how Tottenham are now, perhaps, maybe. I think that for me, it's just the European success that would make them this high in the list. They don't seem to be doing much now under the new ownership. I think that it's all obviously came under Abramovich. So for that reason, I would put them this high on the list. Okay, next on this list, I would have Manchester City. Um, Manchester City has a lot of domestic success. They have 10 league titles, 7 FA Cups, 9 League Cups, and 7 Community Shields. But I would mark them down considering that a lot of their success is lately. They don't have a huge level of historical success other than the period under Joe Mercer in the 60s. Prior to the investment um, into the club, they had 2 league titles. They had 4 FA Cups. They had 2 League Cups and 3 Community Shields, as well as a Cup Winners' Cup. So I think that they would have been on the level with Spurs, perhaps back in the day. But the success that they've had now, especially under Pep, is considerable. So that is a factor in having them this high in the list. Also, the fact that they now have cemented a bit of European success. They won the Champions League in 2023. They've got the Super Cup, the Club World Cup, as well as the Cup Winners' Cup that they had. Their stadium is a good size. Their fan base is expanding considering their recent success. They remind me very much of Paris Saint-Germain, the sort of the English equivalent of Paris Saint-Germain, I would say. I think just for their domestic success and also the level that they're at now, that's the reason why I would have them this high on the list. Okay, next on this list, I would have Arsenal. Arsenal have a lot of historic success. You think of the 30s under Herbert Chapman, and again in the 70s with me, then in the 80s with Graham. So for that, that's really the reason I would put them this high in the list. Unfortunately, they don't have a lot of recent success under Wenger, obviously, in the early thousands. But since that point, they've not really sustained the level that they were at. They've won a lot of trophies. They've got 13 league titles, 14 FA Cups, 2 League Cups, 17 Charity Shields, and a Cup Winners' Cup. I think that they are hampered by the fact that they don't have a lot of European success. I remember they got to the UEFA Cup final in 2000 and then again to the Champions League final in 2006. So that's really two missed opportunities. But yeah, like I say, they're this high on the list for the amount of trophies they won and also for the historic success that they have. But they do need to start winning soon because I think that clubs are starting to catch them up. Okay, I think these next two clubs are way ahead of all the other clubs. So next on this list, I would have Manchester United. Obviously, Manchester United have had a lot of success under Ferguson. They became internationally known under Ferguson. He had the famous thing of knocking Liverpool off their perch. Prior to him coming in, they only had seven league titles, but when he left, they had 20. So they got 20 league titles, 13 FA Cups, 6 League Cups, 21 Charity Shields, 3 Champions Leagues, 1 European Cup Winners' Cup, 1 Europa League, 1 Super Cup, 1 Club World Cup, and 1 Intercontinental Club. I think that they are a massive club, obviously. They've got a massive fan base, they've got a very big stadium. The stadium is starting to look its age, and also I think that they are on the slide a little bit in the sense of they haven't done anything for quite a while. They are starting to go backwards a little bit, and that will need arresting in future. So for that reason, that's why they are where they are on the list. Um, I think also they have an element of European success, but I think most of their success is domestic even though they have 3 Champions Leagues, um, and they have a Cup Winners' Cup, a Europa League, a Super Cup, Club World Cup, and an Intercontinental Cup, they're not prolific in that sense. And so for that reason, that's why I would put them here on the list. Okay, so this is just my opinion. This is not a subjective list. This is just my opinion. I would put Liverpool top of the list. 20 league titles, 8 FA Cups, 10 League Cups, 16 Charity Shields, 6 European Cups, 3 UEFA Cups, 4 Super Cups, and 1 Club World Cup. I think just given what they've achieved in Europe, I think it just about gives them the edge. I think it is still very, very close. I think they are both very, very evenly matched, them and United. But just for that European factor, I would give them the edge. And also, given the fact that they have had, they were very successful for quite a prolonged period of time. United were successful for a prolonged period of time, but I feel that United were a one-man club under Ferguson, whereas Liverpool had both Shankly and Paisley. And again, under Klopp. Liverpool have had relatively recent success as well under Klopp. Um, so just for that reason, that's why I would put them top. But like I say, it's just my opinion. I think we're blessed in this country to have so many great clubs. But yeah, that would be where I put them.